I have but one simple request for the Florida Gators this transfer portal window. Go get DJ Lagway, an elite wide receiver for the next year or two.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And the Florida Gators, again, I have one simple request for them during this transfer portal window, and it is to get yourself an elite wide receiver. Yesterday, we talked about a couple guys that have already entered the portal. Today, not so much. There is one guy that we'll talk about later on today that has entered the portal already, but there's two that we're going to talk about first. At Florida, I want you to do it, I want you to do the thing that everybody does. The thing that nobody gets in trouble for, even when it's blatantly obvious. I want you to do it. I want the Florida Gators, and I will say this before anybody starts crying about anything. Me saying this is not indicative that they're going to do it. Me saying this does not implicate them in actually doing it. But I want the Florida Gators to go tamper like a mother trucker and go get me two specific receivers. The first one we're going to talk about is Cam Coleman, Auburn. I think that Cam Coleman is an elite wide receiver by every stretch of the word, right? We'll pull up his on three rankings, and I'm just pulling up on three to see where he's ranked everywhere. But you look at Cam Coleman, a true freshman this season out of Phoenix City, Alabama. He was, nationally regarded. If it weren't for Jeremiah Smith, the guy we're talking about next segment, if it weren't for Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman would have been the top receiver in the country last year. He would have been maybe the second or third highest ranked player in the country last year. He's elite, okay? And I know he's not in the portal. I want Florida to go get him into the portal. Figure it out. Third ranked player in the country in On 3 last year, fifth on 24/7, fifth on ESPN, seventh on Rivals. He was no lower than a number 3 receiver in the country last year. He was third on ESPN and Rivals, second on 3 and 24/7. Go get him, okay? He is 6'3", listed as 197 pounds. So basically 6'3", 200 pounds. Big dude. The Florida Gators desperately need size and athletic ability on the outside. You look at his production this year, or I guess you look at his production for his true freshman season, and I'll just get thrown off between saying this season, last season, because regular season's over, bowl game's not. But 37 catches, 598 yards, 8 touchdowns. Okay, that's not incredible. It's really freaking good for a true freshman in the SEC with, let's call it what it is, bad quarterback play. Little turnover boy that Peyton Thorne is. But you look at the last 3 games. Actually, screw it. Because the last 3 games was Louisiana Monroe, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Let's remove Louisiana Monroe, right? So that we know there's nothing being skewed in either direction for Cam Coleman. You look at his final 2 games of the season against Alabama and Texas A&M. Cam Coleman had 14 catches on 17 targets. So only 3 passes thrown his way were not caught by him. So 14 catches on 17 targets for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns against Texas A&M and Alabama. Okay, against Louisiana Monroe, sure, he had 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sure, great. But against SEC teams, one of which Florida will play in 2025 in Texas A&M, he went off. And again, like I think that Peyton Thorne is not good. I don't care what anyone says. I know that Auburn fans might get mad at me for it. They did during the preseason. I don't care. I don't think Peyton Thorne's good. I've seen the kid play football. No. But you look at what Cam Coleman does. Man, that kid's really freaking good. He hasn't done a lot after the catch, but I think that that's more indicative of the quarterback play at Auburn than it is about Cam Coleman's ability to create after the catch. I don't think that he has 3.5 yards after the catch per catch. That's not a great number. But I think it's more indicative of the quarterback play that they had at Auburn, because I feel like, and we've had this conversation before about other quarterbacks, I feel like they don't put you in an opportunity or in a good position to run after the catch, right? So I think Cam Coleman having 3.5 yards after the catch per catch is not indicative of his ability to create after the catch. It's indicative that Peyton Thorne or Hank Brown, when it was Hank Brown, couldn't get him the ball in stride and the ability to continue running. So I look at Cam and I go, okay, like this is a kid who I think can make some people miss. I know is a great deep threat receiver. I mean, well, this season he had 17 targets of 20 plus yards downfield. He caught 9 of them for 334 yards, an average of 37 yards per catch on passes that went 20 plus, 6 touchdowns. He's really good. And I'll tell you this right now. I know that Auburn's got a big bank account. I know Auburn's got a big checkbook, and Auburn can probably try to match whatever. What I will say is that Florida had the $26 million buyout set up for Billy Napier. Ended up not using it, right? And reallocating it to NIL. And yeah, they made some waves with their high school class, but I know that Florida was in bidding wars for some other players, or not necessarily bidding wars, but that they were offering money to other players, and that didn't pan out. And so I know that Florida has leftover money. You want to go band for band, bag for bag, whatever the hell you want to call it. Cam Coleman is a blank check player. And he just finished his true freshman season, okay? You know what that means for Cam Coleman? That he just finished his true freshman season? That means that you would have him for 2025 and 2026. You would have a 6'3", 200-pound monster at receiver for DJ Lagway for 2 years. 2. That is what we call a recipe for success. Florida needs big bodies. Florida needs outside receivers. You got the opportunity to go buy a big one. And I don't care. Like I know that there's people who are like, I don't want to buy this. I don't want to buy that. I want to win. And if you want to win, you go out there and you buy the good players. You convince them to go into the portal and you convince them to come with you. Simple as that. Go get great football players. Cam Coleman is one of them. Jeremiah Smith is another one. We're going to talk about Jeremiah Smith next on Locked On Gators. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I am not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy, right? No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, we called them out on it. It turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for just $15 a month. The longest part of the process is when you're waiting on hold to go break up with your previous provider, which, again, I tell you this all the time. Some breakups are good. Some relationships are toxic. Get out of them. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment is required, which is the equivalent, $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And if you like the shirt, I know you can't see all of it, obviously, but if you like the shirt that I'm wearing now, it's incredibly comfortable. I love it. Go to Home Field. Home Field apparel is the best place. Like, it's the holiday season, right? You've got a loved one that's a college football fan or college sports fan. Go to homefieldapparel.com and go get them some damn good clothes. I'm telling you, these are a lot of the shirts that I wear on the show are Home Field apparel because I love Home Field apparel. Incredibly comfortable. Incredibly comfortable. A lot of the shirts. That's it. And I wear these around. It's not just like, oh yeah, put it on for the show, take it off. Like I rock Home Field all the time. I bought my best friend to get from Home Field this year. That's what I go. Homefieldapparel.com. Use code Gators24 to save 15% with homefieldapparel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free breakfast in the podcast and on YouTube. And I started talking about Cam Coleman first because he is the name that I think a lot of Florida Gators fans have thrown out there. That should be connected, right? Because Florida should go out there. I don't know if they really will, but they should. And Jeremiah Smith is another one. Jeremiah Smith, 6'3", 215. More of a obviously, 6'3", 197 for Cam Coleman, 6'3", 215 for Jeremiah Smith. More of a well-built, well-put-together receiver right now. 57 catches for Ohio State this year, 930 yards and 10 touchdowns. Yeah, I will say that cooled off toward the end of the year, and for some reason, all of Ohio State's offense cooled off. I don't know what happened to those guys, but once it got cold, the offense went dead. You know what you don't have to worry about, though, in Gainesville, Florida? It being too cold. Don't got to worry about that in Gainesville, right? Jeremiah Smith, the top-ranked receiver in the 2024 recruiting class. A receiver that Florida was very much in on and broke my heart that Florida did not land him. Again, I have a very difficult time faulting any receiver wanting to go play for Brian Hartline. But Florida was obviously very in on him prior to signing with Ohio State. He is already a very good receiver, a very talented receiver. 930 yards last year. Again, this year, whatever. When their offense cooled off a lot, their passing attack went ghost for a large part of the last month. Their passing attack dropped. Like Will Howard just, I don't know what happened to him. But he couldn't do jack diddly. Their offense fell off. I mean, against Michigan, they scored 10 points as a unit. And Jeremiah Smith scored 6 of those. You could say he was responsible for 7, but he scored 6 of those with a receiving touchdown. Where, by the way, he bullied the DB. He's a bully. He's 6'3", 215. He goes up and gets it. And I will say this, I haven't been covering college football incredibly long. We just finished my 4th season. Yeah, this is the end of my 4th season, which is nuts to me. He is easily the best receiver I have watched out of high school. Easily. This kid is just 24/7 operating on demon time. That's it. He's just a monster. And I need him in Gainesville. You had the great selling point last year with Jeremiah Smith of imagine catching passes from DJ Lagway. Imagine you guys coming into Gainesville and immediately having this connection, immediately having this bond, immediately having this rapport. Imagine coming into Gainesville and becoming the wide receiver 1 with our QB 1. How cool that would be, right? You don't need even that much of a selling point anymore. Because that was selling hope, right? That was selling, imagine what could happen. Now, you get to, first off, I know I called Cam Coleman a blank check player. Jeremiah Smith, also a blank check player. But now, You get to go to Jeremiah Smith and say, hey, remember how last year, like just spin the block on him. Now, last year we were talking about, imagine if you came to Gainesville, what you and DJ Lagway can become. Think about this. Not imagine. We're not imagining anymore. We're not talking about that. We're saying factual. You had 930 yards and 10 touchdowns as a true freshman. DJ Lagway did not lose a single game in which he started and finished. Your team lost twice with their quarterback starting and playing healthy, right? Being perfectly fine there. You saw what DJ Lagway did. DJ Lagway is losing. I mean, how much? What production is Florida losing in the or to the draft? I guess with Elijah Badger and Chim Dike this year, because Jeremiah had 930 yards. Florida is losing over 1,600 yards and over 70 catches with Elijah Badger and Chim Dike and 6 touchdowns. Yep. And you're getting Trey Wilson back, who missed the overwhelming majority of the year with an injury or with multiple injuries. Opportunities there. The quarterback is there. It's no longer imagine what he can become. It's you've seen what he is. And what he is really freaking good at throwing that football, especially throwing the ball deep. Every receiver that's a legitimate deep threat looks at DJ Lagway and has to think, man, that's a beautiful deep ball. Because he does throw a really great deep ball. And I've had my criticisms of Lagway on the underneath passing game and the intermediate. I've had my criticisms of Lagway there. But his deep ball, beautiful. Beautiful. He gets it in the bucket almost every time. It's great there, right? Now we can say, hey, here's a ton of money. I'd go into the 7 figures with a big smile on my face. Okay, I'll say that. Like, I don't know how much he can command. I'd give it to him. And Jeremiah Smith is one of those players, right? And Cam Coleman as well, where I'd say match anything. Like, I know that when Florida decided to not fire Billy Napier, and it was, oh, hey, they're going to reallocate the NIL money, or they're going to reallocate the buyout money for NIL. And people, a lot of Florida Gators fans went, oh, you have that money. Go spend, go buy everybody. Like, don't be outbid for anyone. And the reporters put, oh, Florida won't be outbid for anyone they really want. Here's the thing. And we spoke about this on Wednesday night. There's a difference between being outbid and not wanting to spend that much money on people. Like, it's different to go, oh, yeah, like, we can't spend that money and we don't want to spend. Like, I don't want to spend. I think I forgot who it was. Someone reported that Dallas Wilson, the rumored number was $950,000. I don't know if that's true. But like Florida easily could have been like, we don't value that. We don't want to spend $950,000 for him. Jeremiah Smith is a player we say, hey, buddy, anything. We won't be outbid here. Cam Coleman's a player we say, hey, we won't be outbid here. Come on. Come do it. Like, that's where you go, we won't be outbid. There's no such thing as overpaying for a proven good football player. There's no such thing as overpaying for a proven elite wide receiver 1. No such thing as overpaying for that. It's a premium position that you would have him for 2 years. You are not overpaying. I don't care what you think the number is. It isn't overpaying. Go get him. And again, I'm not affiliated with Florida. I can say go tamper like a mother trucker. I don't care. Go get him. Go get yourself a great football player. Go get your QB1, a great receiving option, because he just lost 2 pretty damn good ones. Go get him elite ones. Because and the way you've been shaping up, like 2025 needs to be a year where you make the college football playoff. You need to be in there. That's the expectation. I've said it. I'm planting that. That's my expectation. College football playoff. Go do it. Get Jeremiah Smith. Get Cam Coleman. Hell, get both of them. You've got a lot of money from the buyout saved up. Go spend it on getting your quarterback elite pass catchers. One more that is in the portal that we're going to talk about next on Locked On Gators. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. And the last player that we are talking about today is someone who Florida Gators fans and listeners of the show may remember because we spoke about him quite a bit last year. But it's CJ Daniels. CJ Daniels was, of course, wide receiver at Liberty, incredibly productive in his time there. Had 1 year where he was injured, and then came back and then had over 1,000 yards for Liberty. Great receiver, incredibly productive. He went into the transfer portal after last season, and he came out of the transfer portal and went to LSU. And that didn't exactly pan out for him. I, however, don't think that was entirely his fault. Okay. I'm just, and last year he was the guy that, by the way, we spoke about as priority #1 should be CJ Daniels. That was the guy that we talked about. We said, hey, CJ Daniels needs to be priority #1 for the Florida Gators in the transfer portal. Didn't pan out. Went to LSU. And now he's gone again. For a couple of reasons. Like LSU's undergoing a mass exodus right now. Okay. They've got everybody leaving. I think he's their third receiver to leave. They've lost everything right now. He ate up at Liberty, went to LSU. Florida's in for him. I would expect them to pursue him again this time around. And when we talk about CJ Daniels, who, by the way, 6'2", 205 pounds, I will say this. I'm not skeptical of him, but I will say I'm a little bit nervous about him. Just because he wasn't necessarily unproductive at LSU. They had a very good passing offense. He was the third option in it. He still had 500 yards, 42 catches. Didn't get in the end zone, but had 10 touchdowns the year prior. So he still was productive. It's just one of those things where I'm a little nervous about it, but I also just feel like, and watching the film, I honestly feel like LSU just was not a good fit for him. And this isn't to write anything off, I'm not saying, oh, go ahead, do whatever you want, write anything off. I'm just saying that, you look at what he did at Liberty, and again, I understand Liberty is not the SEC. I get all that. But you look at what he did at Liberty and how he was used at Liberty, and then you compare that to the film at LSU, and you compare that to, even the stats at LSU. You compare that production, and it's wildly different. And it seems like LSU went and took a receiver who was good at this thing or good at these things, brought him to their offense, and didn't use him that way. And that makes no sense. We talked about that earlier this week when we talk about the portal. It's like, look, you don't want to go get someone who's never done something and ask them to do it. You don't want to go get a converted receiver to tight end, like a pure thin flex tight end, and say, hey man, you're going to go in line every single play now. Like, you don't want to do that. That doesn't make sense. You're misusing someone. And I think LSU misused CJ Daniels. So that's why, and again, I say, we need you to be very productive at your last spot, proven production. I don't think 500 yards is unproductive, but it's a drop-off in production. But this is one of those outliers that we talk about. Again, that's not the be-all, end-all. It's just a general, does he hit these boxes? Great, and that's fine. But in terms of CJ Daniels specifically, because again, you have to look at these things in a case-by-case basis for an outlier, I think he's a great deep threat. I think he's I think he's one of those receivers where you give it to him underneath, or you let him run deep, and then you let him create there. And I feel like with LSU, they did such a horrible job of putting him in good position. They were like, hey, man, you're just going to run a hitch and wait, run an out and wait. And it's just, it's incredible their passing attack was as effective as it was, because I hated it. So I don't think that LSU let him be the deep threat receiver that he's proven to be. I don't think LSU let him be the versatile receiver that he's proven to be. I think that he proved, hey, I can work underneath, I can work over top, like I can get these things done. And LSU went, yeah, well, you're not going to do any of that here. And we're going to see how it works. And obviously it didn't work there. But I mean, you look at Liberty, he was inside out all over the formation. He was going everywhere. And then you look at LSU, and he played almost exclusively out wide. He was not moved around. You look at Liberty, and he's running deep downfield consistently. And then you look at LSU, and he's not. Stuff like that's frustrating. The one thing that I think really translated from both Liberty and LSU is that he has no problem catching through traffic. I think that's one thing he's proven consistently throughout his career. They're not 50-50 balls. They're like 75-25 balls. Like that's what he gets. Also, he significantly improved his drops. He had 6 drops in 2023, had none in 2024. Significantly improved there. I feel like he's one of those guys where it's an outlier, and it's weird to look at someone that goes, yeah, he had a significant drop off in production. But context matters. And I think the context tells you, hey, he's still really good. He was misused. And I'll die on the hill there. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back. We won't be back tomorrow. We don't have a game tomorrow. Pain. Life is pain. We'll be back next time. That's what we'll say. We'll be back next time on Locked On Gators. Talk more Florida Gators football, basketball, everything. For Locked On Gators, I am Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com, and I'll see you all next time.